All right, I just wanted to pop on and brag on God and some of the amazing things He has done in my life this year. This is going to be very quick. It's not going to be like deep stories or anything, mostly because I don't think I could properly word everything, which is weird because I am a writer and you think I would be able to properly word things. Anyways, we're going to do a top 5 cool things that God did for me this year, or did through me this year, and let's just go. Number 5, I went to a ministry training program with 24, 23 other young adults. And I spent a lot of time just kind of like sitting there and feeling not shy, but like not as, like my ministry wasn't as big as everyone else's. But I had this really cool moment where we had a worship night and it didn't end up being the way that we expected it to be. But in that night, God gave me a word to share with everyone to be like, hey, just because it doesn't look the way you think it's going to look doesn't mean that God isn't moving. And that is actually what I was laying on the floor because I'm a floor person, and I was doing this, which is ASL for move. ASL is my ministry, so that's why I was doing that. And I was like, God, just come move, just come move. And I look up at one of our speakers. He got on stage to start talking, and I look up and I can't see him because all of my friends are standing in my line of sight, but they're all moving. They were all like physically swaying or like this before God. Like not a single person was standing still. And so I told them, I was like, guys, just because it didn't move, God didn't move in the way you expected doesn't mean He's not moving. And just that moment of confidence to say that for everyone and to just have God trust me with that kind of word was so fun and so big, and has opened up other things in my life and a lot of other opportunities. Number four is I got the same ministry training program. I again was like, oh, my ministry's not as big, I'm not gifted like this, and they all gave us each the opportunity to preach at some point, either for the rest of the group or at a church. And I'm ASL ministry, so I did not preach at a church. I preached for the group. And I started out my sermon, which I actually really like my sermon, and I've preached it twice now, once there at C2 and another time at my church for a refresh night that we did. And I really liked that sermon, and I feel like it was from God, and I felt like I had delivered it really well. But despite that, when I started my sermon, I said, like, y'all know me, like, I'm ASL, I'm not a preacher. And when I got done, the only criticism I got was from one of the other girls, and she said, hey, you said you're not a preacher, you need to knock that off. You're a preacher. And that is just like, I guess I'm a words person. I'm a words of affirmation girly. Not to say I don't like gifts. You can get me nice things. But I'm a words of affirmation girly. So hearing that just like spoke to me, and it really registered with me, and it like changed my perspective on that. And I have preached 3 times since then. Again, once was the same sermon, but different location, different people. And then I've written at least 2 other sermons, but 2 of them that I know for sure I've preached, and all of them that I felt passionate about and like felt God in. And like I've tried to like sit and like write a sermon, and then like it wouldn't happen, and I'll just be like, okay, God, what do you want me to say? And I feel like God has just delivered in that and spoken to me in that. So like even if the people in the audience aren't getting something from it, I have gotten something from what God has given me. And just the ability to preach is amazing because that's not something that I thought I could do, and here I am. Number 3, this one is also a word for someone. I had a dream in 2023, a dream that like was one of those things where I'm like, I woke up and I was like, oh, got it, it's a metaphor. And I'm very glad I understand metaphors because I am a poet. I sat on that word from that dream. Like I had the dream. I woke up and the dream like translated itself. It was like, God will provide for so and so. I was like, got it. God will provide for so and so. Wrote it down, went to sleep, woke up, and I didn't feel the need to share it. And this isn't the first time that has happened. I have another thing, like a dream that someone has given me that God has given me, that I feel like is a word for someone or a prophecy, and I haven't been told to share that, so I'm just like holding on to that still. But this one I held on to like I had that dream in 2023, I think November maybe, and I gave the word in September or August. And I kept thinking, I like once every other month I would think, hey, you need to tell so-and-so the word. And then I wouldn't feel it. And I was like, if I don't feel like I should say it, I'm not going to say it. And through a series of events, my mom said something to me about so-and-so, and I was like, I need to share that word. And so immediately started texting like, hey, God gave me this word, I've been holding on to it, and He's telling me it's time to tell you the provision is there. And I have been told that word from God through me, God uses people, that's wild, what brought peace and saved a lot of future stress. And so it makes me think, how often do we hear words from God that we don't share and deprive someone of that peace? That's a sermon right there. We will write that sucker and upload that one other day. Okay, number 2, this was also kind of from last year. We had a trip we went on that was very hard for a lot of the people on the trip, and one of the people on the trip kept telling everyone, like, hey, we get to be here. This is a privilege. It is going to be great. You can do this. Let's speak life and positivity. And that's something I've really taken with me as a person. And my friends who are watching this are laughing at me because I'm the kind of person to where someone says, hey, I have to use the bathroom. I say, you get to use the bathroom. We have indoor plumbing. And it's kind of a joke. I've Stockholm syndromed myself into doing that. Where, like, I'll think that to myself. I'll be like, oh, I have to take out the trash. I'm like, I get to take out the trash. We have a trash can. We have a recycling company who will come and take the stuff. I don't have to pay for it because I'm living here rent-free because my parents are blessing me in that way. Things like that where I'm like, oh, this is a blessing. I get to. And I've also done it so much that one of our pastors was preaching and he said, when you say I have to instead of I get to, and half the room turned to look at me. And it's such like a little ministry thing that I just love. I have Stockholm syndrome to someone else into saying it. My mom told me that. I kept doing that to someone who kept being like, oh yeah, I have to. And I was like, you get to. And they did that thing that really aggravates me, if I'm being honest, where they're like, no, I have to. And I'm like, no, you have to breathe air. You have to eat food. But also you get the provision of food and God has given you air in your lungs. Like, I don't choose negativity is all I'm saying. It is such a life-changing thing to say get to instead of have to. But my mom told me that like later that person was talking to her and they said I get to, and she was like, oh. Anyways, so that's just another fun thing. And number 1, ASL ministry. I started this year thinking, okay, I serve here. Like, I have a servant's heart. I'm going to serve. I do the food bank when I can. I help with parking team. I help with the nursery when I can. Things like that. Like, that's just where God has me, and that's where he's going to have me. And through a series of very fortunate events, I am going into ministry for ASL, American Sign Language. Yeah, I had a meeting with our worship pastor that led to another meeting with said worship pastor and also someone who does ASL ministry, not full-time, but like that is her full-time ministry. And I went to the CU2 Next Gen training program to learn about ministry, and I started going to Deaf Chats, which is just like coffee hangouts for the deaf, hard of hearing community every month. And I, in December, got to translate our Christmas Eve service into ASL, which is really stinking cool. It was really stinking hard, and it was a lot of stress, and this has not been an easy year, but oh my gosh. So that is the top 5 coolest things that God has done for me this year. This video was originally going to be like a full, I'm going to sit down and tell you my testimony of the year, but it would have been obnoxious, and I like this better. I hope that this has brought some joy to you. Again, this has not been like just like a perfect year. There has been some hard things. My mom had cancer in 2024, so it was not a phenomenal year. But the fact that when I walk away from 2024 and I'm thinking about the good things instead of everything else, I think that itself is a testimony. Speaking of testimony, you can watch my testimony from Allison Church of God over here. Here's other faith-based videos. Yeah, hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.